Let's take a look at system of linear equations. Let's say that we have graphs of two lines. Here's my first line, and here's my second line. These two graphs are going to cross at a point. That point is the solution to the system of equations. Now you have a couple different things that can happen. You can have one solution, you can have here two lines that are parallel, and that will have no solution. Or we can have two lines. Here's my first one, and here's my second one. They are the same line. That would have infinite solutions. So those are the three things that can happen with a system of linear equations. Let's look at how we would solve a system of linear equations. There are three ways. You have graphing method, substitution method, and the addition method. I don't recommend graphing system of equations because you have to be more precise, and if the equation is a fraction on the graph, it may not be as clear. So we're going to look at the two ways to solve a system of equations. So let's go over the steps to solve a system of equations. Solving a system of equations by using substitution. Alright, so the first step when we do substitution is solve either equation for x or y. I'm going to solve this equation right here for y, so I get y equals 3 minus x. The second step is to plug the solved for equation, this right here, into the other equation for the variable solved for. So I solve for y, so if I have 2x plus 3y equals 5, I'm going to plug y equals 3x, so I'm going to plug the 3x into my y. So I have 2x plus 3 times 3 minus x equals 5. Alright, step 3 will be to solve for the remaining variable. So now I have only x's left. I'm going to solve for x. 2x plus 9 minus 3x equals 5. So that means that negative x equals negative 4. Whoops, I don't know what happened there. So negative 4. So x equals 4. Now you have one of the variables solved for here. So the last step, we will plug that into any equation to solve for the remaining variable. The easiest equation to solve for here is the one that you use substitution on. So we have y equals 3 minus x. So you just plug 4 in, and you get y equals 3 minus 4, so y equals negative 1. Now substitution is usually the easiest to use when one of the variables actually is already solved for, and then you can just plug in and it's pretty quick. The other method that we use is called elimination, and that will be the fastest method when we have the equations set up in their general forms. Let's look at the process for solving a system of equations using the addition, sometimes called the elimination method. We're going to use the exact same equation that we used before so we can compare the two. So step 1 is to make sure the equations are lined up in general form, and that just means make sure you line up the x's, the y's, and then they equal the constants. So that's an easy enough step. Let's look at step 2. So the second step in the elimination method is to multiply one or both equations by a constant so that x or y has the same number but opposite signs. So I can do this. I can either multiply my equation by -2 here, and the x's then would have the same number but opposite signs, or I can multiply my equation by -3, and my y's will have the same number but opposite signs. And because -2 is smaller, I'm going to take this equation and multiply that through by -2. So now I have 2x plus 3y equals 5, and I have -2x minus 2y equals -6. Okay, so you see how they are the same number, 2's, but one's a negative and one's a positive. Step 3 will be to add the equations and solve for the remaining variable. So I have -2x minus 2x is nothing. 3y minus 2y is y. And then 5 minus or plus -6 is -1. And then we actually don't have to solve for the remaining variable because it's already solved for us. So we have what y is equal to. So the last step then will be to plug this variable into any equation to find the other variable. So I have here that, and I can use this equation or this equation. I can actually even use this equation that was altered. You can use any equation as long as there's an x and a y in it still. So I'm going to use this x plus y equals 3 from right here. And I'm going to plug y in, so I get x plus -1 equals 3. So x minus 1 equals 3. I'm going to add the 1, and I get x equals 4. That means that the solution to my system of equations is 4, -1. And there's the solution. We are done.